After all, a headless skeleton soldier might exist. Elias Graves had seen one in-game before. Just in case, he decided it was wiser to take part of its body with him. Having suffered before, Elias Graves now acted like he had grown 100 extra eyes in the back of his head. He roughly wrapped his wounds with scraps of cloth, then returned to the captain's cabin. At the same time, he checked his status. Elias Graves. Status: injured on the humanoid figure. Left foot, right foot, and left shoulder marked yellow. Sanity: 24 out of 100. Stamina: 21 out of 100. Vitality: 82/100. No wonder I feel half dead. My stamina's so low. Elias Graves opened the world chat channel and casually typed a single line. Remember to lock your doors before you sleep tonight. Replies poured in almost immediately. Big bro, what did you run into? A sea siren? Holy shit. Did you actually kill it? Was it tough? Did it drop any loot? Elias Graves spat back with no patience. Nope, pure torture. He didn't bother to read the rest of the chatter. He shut the world channel, lay down on the bed, and stuffed the skeleton's femur under the mattress to use as a makeshift pillow. Meanwhile, his gun stayed within arm's reach. He wouldn't let it leave his side. Last night had been far too perilous. Any slip could have meant eternal damnation. Tomorrow, he planned to set up a few noise traps to serve as early warnings. If you notice danger early, a lot of misfortune can be avoided. He drifted between thoughts and the edge of sleep. But until dawn broke, true rest never came. Elias Graves had barely slept a wink in the second half of the night. When daylight finally seeped through the cracks, he simply got up, dragging his exhausted body. He tossed the brittle old bones from under his bedding to the floor beneath the bed frame. The captain's corpse should be dead for good by now. By morning, Elias Graves looked like a different man altogether. Face pale, dark rings under his eyes, bloodshot veins crawling across his gaze. The moment he stepped out onto the deck, he saw something new by the bow. A statue? It was a cartoonish octopus monstrosity, wings sprouting from its back, hunched over a stone pedestal like it was roosting. What the hell? At the same time, his log popped up with a new system announcement. Last night, a total of 13,000 players successfully slew an aberrant. One player even achieved an astonishing double kill. The system shall now reward you with a unique talent based on your battle record. Additionally, the monster capsule machine has been unlocked. You may feed the capsule machine with monster corpses or body parts to receive a random reward. The corpses will be forcibly reclaimed. But beware, do not toss trash into the machine, and never feed it anything still alive. Such acts would only enrage it. The world chat instantly exploded into chaos. There are monsters in this world? What do they look like? Has anyone seen one yet? Let me go back. I'll give you anything you want. There's a talent reward? Damn it. Last night some skeleton freak banged on my door. I didn't open it. If I'd known, I'd have risked it. Open it? You'd probably be dead by now. Monster capsule machine? Has anyone found one yet? I did. Mine's on the bow deck. It's a big-faced cat. Kinda cute, actually. Mine's in the cabin. It's a cartoon robot. Damn it. Mine's a clown. Scared the shit out of me, and it's sitting right in the captain's quarters. Wait. Everyone's is different? Elias Graves turned his head and stared at his own capsule machine. A cartoonish octopus man. Its maw agape, tentacles bristling, ever hungry, waiting to be fed. Reward granted. You have received the talent? Unlock condition? Progress 0/3. What the hell was this? Even talents needed to be unlocked? How miserly could this cursed system be? Elias Graves reopened the world channel. Others were already grumbling. This so-called gifted talent needed unlocking for everyone, but the conditions varied wildly. Some had to complete thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions of actions. His requirement was just 3, laughably low in comparison. Soon, people began piecing the unlock hints together. Most conditions were simple, but devious. Mine's walking, gotta take 100,000 steps. What a joke. Lucky you. Mine's breathing 3 million times. Might as well let fate decide. You think that's bad? Mine says 0/100. Not a single clue what it means. Probably means you need to survive 100 days. This system, if you didn't want to give out talents, you could have just said so. Elias Graves glanced at his own 0/3, shook his head, and decided to leave it to fate for now. He stepped into the cabin, ready to trade in a few monster remains for a spin at the capsule machine. The captain's skeleton was useless, only one of those. So he grabbed a drowned one's severed hand and fed it to the Octopus Man machine. The moment he dropped it in, the capsule machine's eyes flickered red. The tentacles on its chin glowed and rippled like shifting carnival ribbons. Elias Graves twisted the dial embedded in its chest. Deep inside, the echo of capsules clattered against each other, a sinister little symphony. The atmosphere was deliciously grotesque. What a twisted piece of work, Elias Graves muttered. Moments later, a luminous orb rolled out of the machine's mouth. He picked it up. It transformed in his palm into a small vial, shimmering with a ghostly blue light. Name, Drowned One's Grudge. Type, consumable. Quality, fine. Description, upon consumption, sanity -20. For 1 minute, you will be perceived as a drowned one and will not be actively attacked by lesser aberrations. Elias Graves' eyes glinted with a spark of hope. This thing could be a precious lifeline. In a survival game, an item like this would fetch a high price indeed. The World Channel buzzed with frenzied chatter, everyone showing off their prizes. I drew a token. Name, White Bone Token. Type, Relic. Quality, rare. Description, allows you to summon a skeleton to fight for you for 15 minutes. When time is up, it will lose control and turn on its summoner. Upon its second death, its corpse vanishes. Cooldown, 24 hours. If you use it, best make sure you can handle your own skeleton. That's insane. Sell it to me. I'll pay 100 million. What good's 100 million? You need conch coins here, genius, and there's no trade system unless you meet in person. How about my dagger? Name, Serrated Dagger. Type, treasure. Quality, rare. Description, a razor-sharp dagger, perfectly balanced, inflicts minor damage. Its only drawback, it's short. Very short. All right, we get it, you're short. No way I'm buying your sad excuse for a weapon. The shame alone would kill me. Many players flaunted their gacha spoils, but true rare finds were few and far between. Only those two stood out, the rest merely fine quality at best. In general, relics packed stronger effects than treasures, but at the cost of sanity, with a fair chance of harboring hidden side effects. The rusty flintlock Elias Graves carried could still deliver moderate damage, far outclassing most so-called rare weapons, which barely nicked an enemy. A deadly advantage, but one with punishing trade-offs. 1 shot per minute, constant misfires, sanity drain, a grim form of balance, perhaps. Elias Graves turned away from the channel chatter, bit down on half a long-legged sardine. He was starving, and after last night's ordeal, his misgivings had all but dried up. If staying alive meant devouring rotten fish, so be it. You eat the long-legged sardine raw. Your sanity drops by 2. The flesh tasted off, sour at the edges, but at least it hadn't rotted through. It offered a scrap of energy, a trickle of moisture. Elias Graves devoured every last bite, feeling the faintest hint of fullness seep into his gut. Then he checked his status once more. Though the night's uneasy rest had restored some of his stamina and sanity, the nightmares and insomnia clawed much of it back. His wounds still festered. He wondered absently if infection would be the final nail in his coffin. Elias Graves. Status, injured, a spread eagle human silhouette. The wound sights glow yellow. Sanity, 74/100. Stamina, 52/100. Vitality, 83/100. He stepped back into the cabin. Today's first priority was to craft some noise traps. These aberrations weren't clever creatures. The traps didn't need to be subtle, just loud enough to matter. Using the game's crude synthesis function, he cobbled together lengths of rope and drilled rough holes into thin wooden slats, stringing them up like primitive wind chimes. Wood was easy to come by. The game's timber could be shaped into perfect cubic blocks, each unit roughly equal to a cubic decimeter. Elias Graves tied off the strings, spacing the slats apart with tight knots, and hung them in the passageway outside the captain's quarters and over the door itself. He tested them. A stray breeze made them rattle gently, but a person brushing past knocked them into a sharper clatter. It would do. A crude alarm, but any warning was better than none in this drifting graveyard. By the time he finished, the entire morning had slipped away, and his stockpile of scavenged wood and cloth was spent. He didn't worry about that for now. What truly mattered was fresh water. He needed to fish and fish often, and he'd keep his eyes sharp for drifting crates. There might be a supply chest if the sea felt merciful. Just as that thought crossed his mind, Elias Graves felt it. Something wrong, a hot coil in his gut. His face burned, his stomach cramped sharply. Instinctively, he checked his status again. Elias Graves. Status: injured/corpse poison infection, mild/food poisoning, mild, diarrhea. His whole body glowed a sickly yellow on the figure, the wounds themselves an even darker shade. Damn it, Elias Graves hissed. The thing he dreaded most had happened. The drowned one's corpse poison was festering inside him. He was infected and stranded at sea with no medicine, no hope of real treatment. Today's weather: clear skies, ideal for fishing or casting nets. Location: Sea of Origins. Remaining daylight: 8 hours. Temperature: 15-25 degrees C. Wind force: light breeze, level 1. Elias Graves was fishing furiously now, fighting the sickness with sheer desperation. He needed clean water, yes, but he needed medicine even more. Maybe, just maybe, the ocean would offer him a cure among its many horrors. He searched the world chat for any rumor of hope. Sure enough, someone had once reeled in a common quality medical bandage. It granted faster healing and a measure of infection resistance. Not a cure for him now, but proof that other remedies must exist, drifting in this watery abyss. He would have to fish like a madman. There was no other choice. You caught a rotten plank. You caught a long-legged sardine. You caught a long-legged sardine. You caught a piece of rotting cloth. Fuck! Elias Graves spat the curse into the stale air, his voice hoarse with hunger and fever. He snatched up a long-legged sardine, bit its head clean off, then swallowed the rest raw, guts, bones, twitching limbs and all. He vaguely remembered some survivalist once muttering, "As long as you take the head off, most things are edible." Elias Graves was starving. One fish up, one fish down the gullet. Whether raw sardines chipped away at his sanity was the least of his concerns now. When a man's staring famine in the face, what good was a stable mind? Hunger made beasts of them all, he'd eat anything. But in this grim ritual, Elias Graves found a terrible discovery. The loss of sanity dulled with repetition. Each sardine devoured chipped away a little less of his mind. The horror faded to a grim familiarity. Now each bite shaved off 1 point of sanity, maybe 2 if the bones crunched wrong. Given time, he reckoned, he might grow so numb that no sardine could ever unhinge his mind again. And with each bite, his spiritual experience crept higher. Perhaps his madness fertilized new roots in his brain. 2 more hours bled away into the hungry sea. Elias Graves felt his body rotting faster than it could mend. The wounds itched, deep and vile. He clenched his fists, forcing himself not to scratch, lest the infection burrow deeper. Diarrhea leached water and salts from his blood, while fever roasted him alive from the inside out. His vision blurred, colors bled together, shadows crawled in his periphery, and his limbs felt weighted with stone. Status: injured/corpse poison infection, moderate, fever/food poisoning, mild, diarrhea. Still, some small ember in him snarled at the abyss. He could almost taste salvation. hidden somewhere in these brackish depths. A single cast, one more bite, one glint of hope tangled in his line. Hold on a little longer. Elias Graves croaked to the restless sea, to the gibbering shadows at the edge of his mind. I will pull a cure from your throat. Elias Graves forced his eyes open, mind teetering on the brink of delirium, and kept fishing. At last, the line tugged with an unfamiliar weight. He reeled it in and stared. You caught an eyeball fruit. It was unmistakably an eyeball, about the size of his fist, slick and wet. The thing even blinked at him, pupil contracting under the pale sky. Name? Eyeball fruit. Description: though grotesque in appearance, this is a fruit born of the abyss. Slightly sweet, restores vitamins, salts, and moisture. Elias Graves didn't hesitate. He sank his teeth straight in. Black ichor burst across his tongue as the eyeball fruit shivered in his grip, almost as if alive. Your sanity drops by 2. Horrific as it looked, the taste was mercifully better than those sardines. A gritty sweetness, fibrous flesh like some perverse melon. He devoured every last scrap, dark juice staining his fingers. When it was gone, a strange comfort spread through him. The cramping in his gut eased. The constant trickle of diarrhea finally stilled. But the corpse poison still simmered in his veins like a whispering curse. There has to be a cure out here, Elias Graves growled to the silent sea. No fisherman of the abyss goes unrewarded forever. Surely the depths could cough up medicine too, if only he kept casting his line. But hour after hour, as dusk bled into night, the ocean gave him nothing for the poison in his blood. One measly bottle of fresh water was all he had to show for it. By day's end, his grim haul was laid out in the pale glow of the captain's quarters. Eyeball fruit X2, long-legged sardine X8, wood X10, cloth X9, cyst pufferfish X1, fresh water 1L. Everything else he had already eaten, chewed raw, sanity gnawed away bite by bite. The 1 liter of water, precious lifeblood, was a single unit stored inside the ship's hold. Of course, this so-called hold was no physical space. For resources like wood, cloth, or water, it was more a shifting ledger in some half-living pocket of unreality. When you needed it, it would manifest, provided you had a vessel to hold it. Now Elias Graves' throat burned dry. He had drained a third of his battered 1.5L plastic jug already. He would have to ration what little remained. Fresh water did not come easily from the sea's maw. As night bled its ink across the deck, Elias Graves dared not linger out in the open any longer. He stowed away his line, gathered what he could carry, and retreated into the captain's quarters, the last fragile bastion against the writhing dark. As always, Elias Graves set the flintlock down within arm's reach before lying back on the bed. But the fever and the festering wound gnawed at him relentlessly. Sleep would not come easy. It never did, not here. And then there was the nightmare's curse, coiled around his mind like brine-soaked chains. Restless, Elias Graves opened the world chat, letting the glow of other voices distract him from the fever dreams. The channel was still alive with chatter, but the careful observer might notice one thing. The online headcount had vanished. Dead men made no noise. Those who slipped beneath the waves did so quietly, unmarked, unmissed. I just made myself 2 spears. If that skull bastard shows up tonight, I'll pop him like a coin piñata. Bro, have you never played a game? Skeletons got no flesh. They come with built-in pierce resistance. Using a spear's like tickling him, you'd be better off punching. Steel stockpile update. 982 units still needed. DM me for trades. Hey, Iron Will, you're still alive? Hell yeah. You lot can die all you want. This old man ain't going down. How the hell did your rust bucket outrun the black fog with just 5 knots? Bring me steel and I'll tell you. Shove it. I'd rather die ignorant than feed your greed. Far behind them all, the Iron Will, that battered ironclad, tore a crooked wake through the blackening sea. Her hull groaned like something half alive, metal plates sweating rust and brine. Each revolting churn of her screws bought her another heartbeat of borrowed time. And behind her, the black fog came on, It did not rage like a storm or roar like the tide. It breathed a damp, sucking hush that filled the air with salt rot and the faint scent of old graves. Where it rolled over the water, the sea itself curdled. Fish split apart in silver ribbons, scales drifting like snowflakes into a churning maw of murk. Sometimes, if you strained your ears, you could swear it whispered, just below the threshold of sanity, your name or someone else's or something older than words. Inside the Iron Will's bridge, the fat man gripped the wheel until his knuckles cracked and bled. Every time he blinked, he saw it. The black tide boiling closer, a wall of mistless midnight. It was hungry, or maybe it was just indifferent. Sometimes that was worse. The world chat flickered beside him, pixel voices cutting through the hum of the engines. As long as they spoke, he was still here. As long as he could answer back. He hadn't yet slipped beneath that hush. But somewhere in that trembling grin, that stale cigarette, a question kept gnawing at the back of his skull. How many more knots before the black fog learned how to sprint? His vessel was a floating fortress, stocked with ample supplies, armed with endless ammunition, its hull near impervious to the gnawing brine. Yet all that steel and gunpowder meant little when the Iron Will crawled across the waves at a crawl, far too slow to outrun the creeping black fog. Worse yet, his starting coordinates had cursed him to drift perilously close to that devouring tide. Still, the sea, or whatever god lurked beneath it, had thrown him one pitiful lifeline, the giant whaling harpoon bolted to his deck. A single bolt fired into the flank of some massive ocean beast could tether his ship to that living engine, dragging him forward for a few precious knots more. So he hunted and cursed. Damn it, can't these dumb fish last a bit longer? No stamina at all. Pathetic lumps of meat. He reeled the harpoon back in, scanning the endless slate of water for the next shadow. Big enough to pull, fast enough to flee. It was brutal work, but so far it kept him alive. If alive meant 3 restless hours of sleep and the rest spent spearing giants that bled and thrashed themselves into death. And any lesser fish, foolish enough to attack his hull, learned quickly what civilized artillery meant, and what true firepower could do to fragile scales and bone. The next day, Elias Graves woke like something drowned and half-eaten, every heartbeat a hammer blow behind his eyes. He couldn't remember when he'd finally blacked out, only that the dreams had been thick with shapes that made him retch as he struggled upright. This ship was far worse than he'd ever imagined. If he couldn't find some way to restore his strength, the whole grim cycle would slow to a crawl, and then the black fog would come lapping at his hull. A full night's rest had yielded him only 30 points of precious energy, and the corpse poison was getting worse. It crawled deeper through him, a whispering corruption in every ragged breath. The wound no longer itched. Now it only burned faintly, a cold, prickling sting. That wasn't a good sign. Worse still was the smell. A sour reek, like the guts of a fish left to rot in the sun. The exact stench that clung to those drowned ones who had dragged him half into the deep. The human immune system, it seemed, was no match for corpse rot. His stats, strength, agility, endurance, had all slipped by 2 points, dragging him down into a fog of weakness. Yet even so, Elias Graves did not despair. He had survived worse. A living nightmare? He'd spent 5 years rotting in a bed, paralyzed and helpless, and still clawed his way back to the world above. He staggered out of the captain's quarters and into the hold, throat burning, mind reeling. Breakfast was a mockery of survival. 2 squirming eyeball fruits and a few long-legged sardines, chewed down raw just to keep the corpse poison from finishing him off too soon. Then he forced himself back to the rail, the rod clenched in hands that felt like swollen wax. Today, luck seemed to mock him with a cruel grin. Right away, the line twitched. UV caught an eyeball fruit. UV caught a long-legged sardine. UV caught a rotting timber. UV caught. Before he could curse the ocean's sense of humor, Elias Graves felt his vision squeeze to a single pinhole of dark. His knees buckled. He hit the deck like a puppet with its strings cut, eyes rolling back into some deeper, colder place. System broadcast. Congratulations, survivors. You have endured to day 5. The trading system is now unlocked. Details available in your log. The announcement slithered through his skull like a rusted wire, dragging Elias Graves back from that pitch-black tide. He came to with a rattling gasp, tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth. Day 5. Did I pass out for more than 2 days? It felt like there was molten lead poured into his bones. His limbs heavy, flesh cold, lips split like dry parchment. Every breath scraped his throat raw. Desperation rattled up from his chest as he dragged open his status screen. Status: severe injury/corpse rot infection. Advanced. The entire figure now burns red. Sanity: 100/100. Stamina: 23 out of 100. Vitality: 14/100. Below 100, injured. Below 50, wounded. Below 30, severely wounded. Below 10, near death. While near death, any attack may drag you straight beneath the waves. Elias Graves was dangling one heartbeat from death's maw now. He clawed his way upright, every joint a splintering scream, vision swimming, mouth cracked with thirst. Food first, anything to wet his lips, to trick his blood into staying inside his skin a little longer. Then he'd check the new trade channel. Maybe some desperate soul would sell him a cure for his rotting veins. But as he forced himself upright, a shape loomed where the horizon should have been. There, hugging the side of the nightmare, was another ship. Pirate sloop, 20 meters long, black sails coughing in the brine. Its mast crowned with a bleached skull flag that fluttered like a grin in the dying light. 2 wicked boarding hooks bit deep into the nightmare's hull, chaining the ships together like carrion and the flies that feast on it. Between the 2 ships, a rickety plank formed a narrow bridge, a fragile path for those with deadly intent. Not good. Elias Graves' instincts screamed in alarm, but it was already too late. An arrow sliced through the salty air, thudding deep into his left arm with brutal force, piercing flesh and bone. The strike drained his vitality down to 9 points, the abyss of near death. He collapsed instantly, sliding beneath the ship's railing to hide in shadow. From the creaking planks between the vessels came the telltale sound of footsteps. Someone was crossing. A hunter approaching to confirm Elias Graves was no longer a threat. The arrow was not meant to kill, it had missed the heart, but Graves had fallen too quickly for his assailant to be sure. Rules forbade the stranger from boarding the nightmare directly, so he stalked alongside, waiting for Elias Graves to reveal himself. Only then could he kill and claim the prize, the ship. A cold clarity struck Elias Graves. If they meant to kill him, then by the black deep they should not expect mercy in return. His eyes flared with ruthless resolve. Though his left arm throbbed with burning agony, it was useless for wielding weapons. But his right arm was steady, gripping the flintlock. Silently, he disengaged the ship's boarding lock. A small mercy and a last hope. He knew the intruder was no match for real firepower. Otherwise, this would have been an all-out bombardment. As the man stepped onto the deck, his gaze immediately fell upon the figure sprawled on the planks. Elias Graves lay pale as death, eyes blazing a fierce, unnatural red. A walking corpse, reeking of festering rot. The stench of corpse poison clung thickly to him, a foul miasma that clawed at the mind. Worse still, in his blackened fist was a heavy-caliber flintlock, its muzzle aimed dead center at the newcomer,